Not everything our ancient ancestors built had a clear function. Sometimes, they created objects purely out of inspiration or simply because they felt like it. Today, it's tough to tell what was made as art and what was made to be used. In some cases, we can't even figure out how it was made, let alone why. The remnants they left behind can be truly mind-bending, as you're about to see. These are the 15 archaeological artifacts that challenge everything we know about the past. Number 15. Headless Man of Pompeii. Being in Pompeii during the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE would have been horrifying on its own. But for one man, things somehow got worse. In May 2018, archaeologists uncovered his skeleton at the famous site, and it was missing a head. The reason? A massive boulder had landed directly on him, most likely decapitating him on impact. His body's position suggests he had survived the initial eruption and was trying to flee. He appeared to be on the first floor of a building, possibly descending stairs or searching for shelter, when the explosion hurled the boulder into his path. Some experts believe the object may have even been a dislodged door jamb. Analysis of the bones indicates the man was around 30 years old at the time of death. While his story is tragic, it's also deeply human, a last attempt to escape, cruelly cut short. If there's any comfort, it's that he likely never saw it coming and probably didn't feel a thing. Number 14. Tree trunk burial. Now, how can you explain that? Burying the dead in wooden coffins is a practice that spans thousands of years and countless cultures, but placing someone inside a full tree trunk is something else entirely. In 2017, while excavating a school site in Zurich, Switzerland, archaeologists uncovered the remains of an Iron Age woman buried inside a hollowed-out tree trunk roughly 2,200 years ago. Analysis of her bones showed she was native to the area and likely grew up in the Limit Valley. Her body was buried with bronze bracelets, a bronze belt chain, and a decorative chest ornament featuring amber and yellow glass beads. She was around 40 when she died. This kind of burial had never been seen in Switzerland before, and experts still don't fully understand what it meant. She could have been a tribal leader or perhaps someone from a powerful family. But that's just speculation. Whoever she was, the way she was laid to rest suggests her people thought she mattered, and that's likely all we'll ever know. Number 13. Rune stones in Oklahoma. Our next find is as American as it gets, just with an unexpected Norse twist. Across Oklahoma, several rune stones have surfaced over the years, mostly found on farmland. Some believe these stones are evidence of ancient Viking presence, but others argue they're 19th century creations made when Norse culture was trendy. One of the most well-known examples, the Heavener rune stone, was found in 1923 and is thought by many scholars to have been carved by a Scandinavian immigrant in the 1800s. Another stone found nearby might even be Native American in origin, not Viking at all. Some of the inscriptions don't even translate into Old Norse. In fact, several are simply patterned stones or modern fakes. Archaeologist Lyle Thompson examined many of these stones in 2007 and concluded that most were either forgeries or natural formations mistaken for writing. While it's unlikely that Vikings reached Oklahoma, there's still enough mystery around these stones to keep the debate alive, and it's awesome. Number 12. Teeth pendants in Çatalhöyük. Jewelry has been a part of human culture for as long as clothing, but our idea of what qualifies as fashionable has changed dramatically. In Çatalhöyük, Turkey, around 8,500 years ago, people wore human teeth as pendants. Proof of this came in 2019 when archaeologists discovered tooth-based ornaments at the site. This practice had never been documented in this part of the Near East before. The teeth had been meticulously drilled with cone-shaped tools, similar to those used on beads or bone jewelry. Some researchers believe the teeth may have come from relatives or ancestors, and that wearing them was a way to honor the dead, possibly even a form of ancestor worship. But without further evidence, that's just one interpretation. For all we know, they might have been pulled from enemies in battle. Whether sentimental or savage, the effort behind crafting and wearing them is undeniable. These pieces offer a raw, human connection to beliefs and rituals that vanished long before history started keeping records. Number 11. Flint tools in Qesem Cave. Recycling isn't a modern invention. Our ancestors were already doing it over 400,000 years ago. A 2019 study by Tel Aviv University focused on artifacts recovered from Qesem Cave and found clear evidence of flint being repurposed into new tools. The flint wasn't reused because of scarcity. There was plenty of raw material nearby. Instead, it seems early humans reshaped old flakes and fragments into smaller tools for precise tasks. Microscopic residue was still visible on some surfaces, showing that the tools had been used in everyday life. The cave also had defined activity zones, areas for food prep, storage, and even sections where both plant and animal materials were processed. It shows a level of organization far beyond what we usually associate with prehistoric humans. They weren't just scavenging. They were managing space, conserving resources, and repurposing material with intention. This kind of planning suggests an intelligence that's been underestimated for far too long, and it's all hidden in the details of reused stone. Number 10. Bluefish Caves. In early 2017, archaeologists uncovered a cluster of butchered animal bones inside the Bluefish Caves of Yukon. Dating back 24,000 years, these bones stunned researchers because their age pushes back the timeline of human presence in North America by nearly 10,000 years, well before the Clovis culture even appeared. The discovery was so unexpected that the bones had to be retested for confirmation. These remains belonging to animals like horses, bison, lions, mammoths, bears, and fish all bore cut marks from stone tools. That concentration in one spot suggests human activity, possibly long-term habitation. One theory suggests that the people responsible were isolated in what's known as a Beringian refuge during the last ice age and never moved farther south. But that's still just speculation. No one knows who these people were, how they arrived, or what happened to them. What is clear, though, is that they were here, and their presence is now undeniable proof of a much older human history in North America. Number 9. Mayan trophy skulls. The fall of the Maya civilization remains one of history's biggest mysteries, but a 2019 discovery in Belize might offer a clue. Archaeologists unearthed 2 heavily modified human skulls, likely worn as trophies by a warrior buried nearby. The skulls were defleshed, fractured, painted, and drilled, clearly meant to be strung and worn, possibly around the neck. The warrior, who died about 1,000 years ago, may have worn these as a sign of power or conquest. What makes this find more complex is that the skulls weren't from rival enemies. They belonged to other Maya people from the northern region. This hints at possible infighting, suggesting the Maya may have been engaged in civil war near the time their empire collapsed. Theories about environmental collapse and outside invasion still exist, but evidence like this introduces a new angle. If Maya warriors were killing and wearing the remains of their own people, then internal conflict could have played a much bigger role in the empire's downfall than we once thought. Number 8. Ancient baby bottles in Germany. If you've ever wondered how ancient people fed their babies, recent research offers a clear answer: milk bottles. In 2019, a study concluded that small clay vessels found at archaeological sites across Europe were used as baby bottles roughly 3,000 years ago. Chemical analysis revealed traces of degraded animal fats inside the pots, evidence that milk from animals, likely goats or cows, was being fed to kids. This milk may have been a supplement to breastfeeding or a full replacement when breastfeeding wasn't possible. The vessels themselves are small, with narrow spouts shaped perfectly for a child's mouth. While humans began consuming dairy products around 6,000 years ago, this is the oldest solid evidence that babies were given animal milk. It's a striking reminder that even in the Bronze Age, people were figuring out practical parenting solutions. Though the fats were too broken down to identify the exact animal, the purpose of the vessels is clear. These weren't ceremonial. They were for feeding real children. Number 7. Bark shield. There's not much left of this next discovery, but what remains has completely upended what we thought we knew about Iron Age warfare. Unearthed in 2015 near the River Soar at Everard's Meadows, Leicestershire, this 2300-year-old shield is the only known bark shield ever recovered in Europe. Preserved in waterlogged soil, it dates to between 395 and 250 BC and was built from green bark, reinforced with internal wooden laths, described as a whalebone corset of split hardwood, rimmed with hazel and featuring a twisted willow boss. Despite bark being previously used for containers, no one imagined it tough enough for battle. But experimental replicas proved this 3 mm thick design wasn't just decorative, it was lightweight and combat-ready. Its wasted shape mirrors the iconic metal Battersea shield, suggesting this rare organic piece may have inspired its metal counterparts. Traces of checkerboard patterning also hint at symbolic design. Described as phenomenal by experts, this object is a lost tech delicate in appearance, but practical in war and a rare glimpse into a vanished world. Number 6, oldest wine in Italy. Raise a glass to this. In 2017, researchers discovered traces of what might be the oldest wine ever produced in Italy. Found inside terracotta jars in a limestone cave on Monte Cronio, near Sajacca on Sicily's southwest coast, the wine residue is over 6,000 years old. That pushes the timeline of Italian winemaking back by at least 3,000 years. Unlike earlier findings that showed grapes were present, this study confirmed actual wine production. The evidence came from tartaric acid and its salt, known as cream of tartar, embedded in late Copper Age jars discovered back in 2012. This chemical fingerprint proved that the vessel once held wine, not just grapes. Before this, Italy's earliest known winemaking dated to the Bronze Age. Now, thanks to this discovery, we know the process began much earlier. It's the oldest confirmed wine residue ever uncovered in the region. Sadly, the whole story behind it is a complete mystery. Number 5. Ancient shaman's bag in Bolivia. Human curiosity toward mind-altering substances has existed for millennia, but how and why they were used has evolved. In 2019, inside a Bolivian rock shelter high in the Andes, archaeologists found a leather bag once belonging to a shaman. It had survived more than 1,000 years thanks to the cave's dry conditions. Inside the pouch were the essential ingredients for brewing ayahuasca, a powerful hallucinogenic concoction. The mixture was intended to trigger intense visions, which shamans interpreted as spiritual messages or glimpses into the future. These visions were typically experienced alone, which explains why the bag was found deep in a remote rock shelter. Along with the herbs, the kit included snuffing tablets, spatulas carved from llama bone, and a pouch made from fox snouts, each item likely holding ceremonial value. Why the backpack was left behind remains unknown. One theory suggests the shaman may have died during the ritual, possibly falling from the ledge while under the influence. Whatever happened, it remains frozen in time. Alright? Now, let's move to number 4. Turkey feather blanket. Even the most modest artifact can reveal more than expected. This 800-year-old Pueblo blanket was originally covered with more than 11,000 turkey feathers. Archaeologists believe the birds were still alive when the feathers were taken. They weren't eaten afterward either. Instead, the Pueblo people appear to have kept turkeys for their feathers, and in many cases buried them ritually once their feathers were no longer needed. While today turkeys are served on holidays, there was a time when they were treated more like household companions than food. Researchers estimate it took feathers from at least 10 turkeys to make this single blanket, but the birds likely weren't harmed. Feathers were collected during molting periods, and the animals were fed and cared for until their next molt. Before being viewed as meat, they were seen as living resources, sources of warmth, not food. This rare find totally changes what we thought we knew about the ties between Native Americans and turkeys in the pre-contact Southwest. Number 3. Antarctic fruitcake. Fruitcake is known for lasting a long time, but over a century? Well, that's pushing it. In 2017, an over 110-year-old fruitcake was discovered inside a hut at Cape Adare in Antarctica. The structure itself was built in 1899 by Norwegian explorer Karsten Borchgrevink, making it the oldest human-built site on the continent. but the cake likely arrived later during the Terra Nova expedition led by Captain Robert Falcon Scott between 1910 and 1913. Although Scott never made it to Cape Adare, his second-in-command, Victor Campbell, sheltered there with his crew through the brutal winter of 1911. The cake, still wrapped in its original paper and tin, is believed to be the work of Huntley and Palmer's, a company known to have supplied rations to Scott's team. Despite its age, the cake remains intact and surprisingly still smells edible. While no one's eager to try it, its survival shows just how well food can endure in the harsh, freezing environment of Antarctica. It's the oldest preserved cake ever found. Wanna eat it? Number 2. Roman leather toy mouse. Children have always needed ways to stay entertained, and the Romans were no exception. Discovered at the Vindolanda Roman fort near Hadrian's Wall, this small leather mouse is estimated to be nearly 1,900 years old. At just 5 inches long and finely crafted with markings that resemble fur, it's believed to be one of the oldest surviving toys in Britain. But not everyone agrees on its purpose. The object was found inside the commanding officer's quarters, leading some historians to believe it could have belonged to his child. Others think it may have been a prank created by bored soldiers trying to scare their comrades. After all, what better way to cause a scene than to toss a realistic mouse into someone's bedroll? Whether it was a child's toy or a soldier's joke, the craftsmanship is impressive. Roman forts weren't just places of discipline and battle, they were lived-in spaces where everyday life carried on behind the walls. Number 1. Luwian inscription. A huge archaeological discovery came to light thanks to a rediscovered artifact first found in 1878. Researchers from Switzerland and the Netherlands located a 95-foot-long Luwian inscription originally uncovered on a limestone frieze in the Turkish village of Beykoy. After its discovery, the stone was tragically dismantled by locals and used as mosque foundation material. Fortunately, copies of the inscription were later found among the possessions of British historian James Mellar. The text was commissioned by Kupanta Kurunta, the great king of Mira, after he secured his territory around 1190 BCE. It tells how he then marched east and attacked the vassal states of the Hittites. His forces are believed to have reached as far as Ashkelon in southern Palestine, where they built a fortress. These events appear to line up with the invasions of the Sea Peoples, which many historians believe triggered the collapse of the Bronze Age civilizations in the eastern Mediterranean. This monumental find reveals new details about the geopolitical chaos of the time. If you found this video enjoyable, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you soon in the next one.